Let's start on a few lines first.
Yeah, why don't you just give a small recap of the last few we did from Sif Gimel at least.
Yeah, okay. Started explaining that the koich is the way they come into the body, they change according to the place where they come. They speaking the contrast between Rotzen and all the keiches, that the keiches hagluyim, since they come lefi erech hakelim, they come according to where they're being mislabish, and each keich has its place where it belongs. Therefore, in the head, the whole keich hasech will express itself as to the other parts of the body. Even though they could have an effect, person could learn how to dance or learn how to write, and he has it's tricks, so to speak. He taught himself how to write. It's teaching, and it's a seichel. But still, it's shalei be'erech. It's non-comparison to the way he thinks an idea. This is all how to do practical expressions. It's not ultimate seichel. So therefore, it's a yeridah, so to speak. It's the lowest part of seichel that it comes down into lower keiches, as opposed to its place, the me'ach. Over there, there's all the understandings are there the way they are in the highest way. And they said that even that, it's the gashmi sheberuchni, which comes down the ruchni shebegashmi, the lowest of the keich. Even though we're speaking about the real seichel, but it comes back shome. It's not like the neshama before it came down here was able to think about Hashem in a free way with the ruchnis. Mashing down here, everything goes through gashmis. Same thing too about seeing keichariya, even though he sees take, but it's not the idea of seeing in ruchnis is a much greater way. There's no hakbolus of eyesight of a parse like tzaddikim, that they weren't under this hakbol of gashmis. They were able to see on the other side of the world like they're seeing in front of them. There was no limit there. Ruchnis dikariya was still with them. They lived, the neshama life was revealed by them. So he said, so that's, everyone has its place. That's one thing. And he said more than that the kelim, the where they come, that has an effect on the keich which comes into the Eivir. That he says, according to how the person's brain is made up of, that's how he's going to understand. If it's cold and wet or dry, and he said different, the dryness or the dampness of the brain, it's very slight degrees, but that makes all the difference. What's more his gabrus by him, whether it's to take apart something or to the reichkeit of an Ayin. That's basically the difference of chokhmah and binah, is basically dependent on the chaymer hameach. Like you have different people. One is a mamtzi, he has new ideas. Another person, once he understands to hear something, he could explain it. So it's everyone on their level. This is all dependent in the gashmisdik brain. And same thing and also he said, in the eye, it's not just the sight of the person, it's also how he looks at things. He has a good eye, or if someone's a more excited person or a more calm person, it's all dependent on the physical body. The reason for this is,
so all the chushim and everything else is all totally
in the body. Yeah, that's
it
has to do with the nefesh, and that we spoke about it last time. That it's why he has such a body, because he has such a nefesh. We went into it. What's the cause? Is it the body that causes which nefesh should come to me, or it's because which nefesh I have, that's which body I'm going to get? Figured according to the nefesh.
Oh, so it's the other way around. There's a question both.
The way your nefesh is, that's how your body. They're going to make such a goof which is fit for it. We're going to learn later if we'll get to it. If they are compatible, not compatible, that's basically the chiluk of Teo and Tikkun. If they fit together, and sometimes whatever, if we'll get it. But there's different. That's the explain of this. Not just the koch the word of nefshel kis and nefshel baim is why every nefshel kis has hits nefshel baims that he has to be mevared. They're compatible. It's not just stam. They happen to come in one place and let's figure it out.
That we understand.
Right, but it's the same thing goes even further, because everything, it's one unit. It's one person. It's not like speaking to three people. And then it's all one person. It's one makeup, and this person includes all these things which are all exactly fit together. So the connection, so to speak, that the neshama has to the body is not just after he worked so much with the body and he developed a connection, now he can't leave him. It's really to begin with, this is chelkei be'elam, this is what suits him because of who he is, because of the way of expression. But lapel, the way it actually happens, this change, so to speak, the agshama of the keiches, the way it's going to be revealed, lapel, in a gashmistic way, it happens, the lapel, through the slapshus and kelim. And he says the reason for this is, why is it that the koiches come into the Ivorim. That's because the keiches to begin with are limited keiches. Every keich is defined already what it is. It's not expression of nefesh the way nefesh is, unlimited, infinite. Like Lashon Alter Rebbe says that the nefesh is etzem echad ruchni poshut umufshet mikol tziyur gashmi. There's no definition in nefesh. So that's a koyach is the quite opposite of that. It's a koyach, he has a certain power for a certain thing. So he's limited in his power. So therefore he is not a revelation of the nefesh, if we could say. It's even really a covering for the nefesh. If I want to see nefesh in chokhmah, I'm not seeing nefesh. I could see thanks to nefesh there is chokhmah, but it's not the nefesh. It's not pshitus nefesh. So we said since it's already limited, so that's already, they have a connection to a certain way of being, therefore they're shaykh to come into kelim. And that's what we explained in the last part that we were speaking about, how these keiches once existed in the nefesh. And at the end of the day, even though they're not expressions, or they're not a revelation of nefesh, but they're coming from there. So they're there beforehand, before they can be revealed away. But the way they're in the nefesh, they're part of nefesh. That's, so to speak, it's because the nefesh is so unlimited, he also has this capability, this ability to think, to feel. So he has certain keiches, different keiches that he has, thanks to it, because who he is, because he's a nefesh, he could carry all these keiches. But the keiches are not an expression of the nefesh the way it is. It's just thanks to the nefesh. So when the keiches are in their highest state of being, we'll say it in the, even before of forming of keich, nefesh keilu keiches, their nefesh neise keiches, the lashon is, that because nefesh who it is, he'll have all these capabilities. So over there you don't even speak about the keiches. But even on a lower level, which already we speak about keiches, and over there we say that they're not the nefesh. It's not because of who I am. It's because I'm complete, so I'll encompass everything. The nefesh encompasses everything. Over there, they're already speaking about keiches, but not as they're felt as shleimus hanefesh. This is mashlim the nefesh. This is mashlim nefesh. We already speak about the things, but their whole being is they're mashlim the nefesh. If you want a moshel gashmi for it, you have. Whatever the time we're speaking today, we have shluchim, people go out on shlichus. So you have the way they're actually going on shlichus. Then if you take it a step earlier, why are they going on shlichus? Because they're connected with the Rebbe. There's Dam Shaleach, and the Keich Shalom Shaleach, they're going to go on shlichus. So even though every shliach has his shlichus, what he's going to accomplish, even though whatever, everyone could do anything, but there's people that are more fit for different things. They will sich übergeben in their Inyan. So the keich, was sich harizdrog, and each individual is going to be massim to what he is. But if you take it a step further, through this person, that's will accomplish this. We'll set them to a campus college. Another guy will go to open a shul. Every guy will bring the Rebbe or bring the Lakust in his way, in his specialty. So if he looks at himself the way he started off, he's just another way of the Eibishter being expressed. Once he comes out revealed, then you don't see that in him. You see his, you'll translate it, we'll trace it back. But what's actually happening, there's limited ways of action and expression and understanding, whatever, how he's doing it. And the same thing will take to the keiches, that you have the keiches the way they're in the nefesh, because the nefesh carries all these things. Alorla, and therefore he says it's not even, when you speak over there, the keiches of seichel and midas, we're not going to be able to see seichel as seichel. It's going to be hashlomas nefesh, to complete the nefesh. He also could do this too. But it's not, we don't see it. We spoke about the midas also, the midas and seichel, that the seichel could make midas. But the way, when a person is involved only in the intellect, he doesn't think about it, even though the seichel is complete, and he'll also be able to eventually tell us different instructions, how and what and where to get excited. But as time, and when we're involved in the seichel itself, we don't look at that. We know only that it carries these capabilities. But then there is when it actually comes these keiches to action, when they're actually functioning and the capabilities are practicing, that's once they come down into the guf. And that's what we're holding. So he's going to say how this is a major tzimtzum. It has to come, how do you say it? Constricted, you could say, or contracted, whatever. Basically, that it's not expressed as its real power, the way it could do things. It has to come according to what the avoid, the limit of the person's limbs what they could handle. But the ray of these keiches, when they come to the limbs of the body, it has to be in a constructed way. The soul has to contract itself, contract itself in order to come. Right, sorry. In order to come into the limbs of the body, this is a gashmi, and it has to become. He should live with it, which means in a physical way, in a physical, so to speak, it's physical, right? It's not something that we could touch, but it's gonna get a physical way of thinking, a physical way of seeing. So that's at least at the level of this limb, not just because the nefesh is so built-in mugbul, and he could even push a person to run around. He's living by it. He thinks, he feels. This is already becoming his thing, the goof's thing. That has to get a new way of life. It's like saying, when a person moves, you know he's alive. Is that life to move? That's life, the way it's experienced in Tnuah. It's also a form of life, but it isn't life, but it's thanks to life that we could move. So this is already a minute way of life. In this goof you can divide it. There's the moving, actually you can see the movement, and then there's a life which is involved in moving. In the life, even that is not ultimate life. Whatever you could do, there's many levels in anything you can have it, the way the nefesh carries the life, and then the way it's ready to come to the goof, and then when it actually comes to the goof, and the life force involved in it, then there's the actual movement, which is a very limited act. In order that should happen, it had to be a tzimtzum, because it's actually becoming this act. Since they become mitzumtzum, they become limited till their be'erech beginnes haruchnische beivarim lies nitfas behem. That the be'erech, the spiritual part of the limbs, that should become enclosed and become one with them.
What does it mean to become be'erech to the
ruch? What's the ruchnische beivarim? So it's explained in Chassidus that this is something I always don't understand, but this is whatever, we'll try to understand maybe. It says in Chassidus, we mentioned before, that the Geshem Sheberuchni comes into the Ruchni Shebegashmi, which means that the Lashon Chassidus is the Eidim, the steam, so to speak, the steam that comes from the blood, the heat of the blood. That's the ruchnis of the blood. It's not something you could really, it's not so tangible. That is the heat of it. That's where the nefesh, hamislabish ba'aguf, that's where it comes, that's where it's enclosed in. That's the ruchnis beivorim. I always have the question is, how did the blood get hot? If the person is not alive, the blood is cold. So the only reason it's hot is because of the nefesh. So when did the nefesh crawl? How did it get in? If it wasn't hot yet. But anyways, I'm not gonna
talk about the nefesh achiyunis or nefesh
nefesh achiyunis. You speak of nefesh beguf. It's not of course this by yid. Everything is the nefesh lekis behind it. This is my question. This is a side question, but the idea is whether this is the way things started and lapel they slapshus. How do they fit? How do they suit each other? It's the heat that he gets into. That's the how does the heat come? Other people want to say it's because he's eating and all the movements, and that makes the heat. That itself. So how did the movement come about? Only because you're nefesh, whatever.
Well, we learned before, and we understand that the gashmis of the ruchnis, okay, goes into the ruchnis of the gashmis. We understand that, but what does it mean that it becomes be'erech? It becomes like on the same level.
Be'erech means it's possible that
it should. What is new in that? We said that it's mislabish in it, so obviously it has to be on the same.
True. So he's explaining how it works. It's not that the koyach kamesha who comes, he has to limit himself accordingly, because the whole idea of eir panimi means that the air is coming according to the place where he comes. Like I want to explain something to a child. I have to focus what could he handle, and then I could speak to him on his level, he'll get it. I want to give him the message with all the enthusiasm I have about it, but I can't tell him. There's a chassidud where he was davening, it was Almesha, it was Yortzeit, whatever, one of these days, Friday, whatever, Shabbos, whatever. So he was davening, and they heard that Ein Eid Mulvade. So right after that, he chaps a kid, and he says, "You know that Ein Eid Mulvade?" The kid didn't know what he wanted from him. But anyways, he knew that. What's he understand it? There's a story. Al Derech said there was once The story Bishlam Azal was davening, and after davening, he called over the Mendel Futterfass. He asked him, "Tell me the truth. Why are you learning Chassidus? For Askola or for Aveda?" So he knew whatever he's going to say is going to be, it's not going to be good. He's going to say for Aveda, he's going to tell him, "Stashakrin, you're a liar." He's saying for Askola, he's saying, just for the pleasure, for the intellectual. So he says, "For Askola Avada nicht." Sure, I don't do for Askola. So then he got out of it, but then later he caught his son, Rebbe Hillel, I think it was, and he started speaking to him harsh words. He month from them, he was demanding from him, and they both broke into tears, father and son. So the Mendel heard them speaking. So he was dominating, they had the emes, and anything a hurdle away from that, it's terrible, it's catastrophic. He would say, just from speaking already, he said that the chiluk of a thing that's mutter to eat and a thing that's not allowed to eat. So Derekla, we said in Tanya, is explained that the Dover Osir means that it's connected with Klippus. Dover Mutter is it's not tied to Klippus, we can elevate it to the Eibishter. So he would say, Dover Osir means that the Eibishter told me, I don't let you become separate from me. Dover Mutter means the Eibishter says, I let you become separate from me. That's the way he touched. Just to have a clear view of the way the guy would think, it's a different way of thinking.
Either way.
Whatever you do, it's alt, yeshes, and if he had up a few extra pennies, he's all depressed. He said, "What happened?" He says, "I'm scared. Maybe it's Mishalom L'Seino V'Elponav L'Ha'avidei."
How does that work?
How does he live?
It's connected to Klippa. That's how you separate from Hashem. That's why you can't eat it. If it's not connected to Klippa, while eating it, you're not separating from Hashem. So how does that mean that you're allowed to separate from Hashem?
The fact that it's Gashmi.
The fact that a person does. Go back to the first page of Tanya. It's a side. You have to understand it 100%.
No, if you need to understand it, that means that you're obviously eating for the wrong reason.
No, he said
we're all eating for the wrong reasons.
It allows you to separate from Hashem. We said the reason you separate from Hashem is because you're easily connected to Klippas.
The Gashmi itself takes you away from Hashem.
Klippas Nega is also a Klippa. He said, the Alter Rebbe says in the first page, this is going off topic, but the Alter Rebbe says in the first page of Tanya, there's one nefesh achas, he says, is mitzad a klippe v'sitra achre. And he says, what's the klippe? He says, v'hi amislabeshes b'dam ha'odom lahachis haguf. This is what comes in the person's body, in the blood, to give the body life. Then he starts saying that for you say this, the Midas Reis. So question to ask, Chassidim said, what does it mean that it comes into their body to give life? So what's wrong? What's wrong? What's bad? See, the mere fact, the person just living to live and not to serve the Eibishter, that itself is klip. If it's not connected with the Eibishter, that what's klip? Klip means the Eibishter is not revealed. It's a shell. It's the Eibishter is hidden. That's what we said. The Eibishter lets us eat a davar gashmi. A person could eat it and not think about Hashem. If he's eating Hashem Shamayim and he's the only reason he sees the Dvar Havai in it, whatever, he's outside the Gomer and he sees that's a different story. But we're speaking on Hashem Kerekeinu. Fine. Okay, anyways. How do we get there? Okay, fine, we'll go back.
Talking about the...
And what? That has to be be'era. Yeah, you have to speak according to the Rebbe Kavel. So B'zalman Meish was speaking to the kid, he wasn't able to handle it, he was speaking on his level. The kid didn't daven for 8 hours, B'zalman Meish would daven 6 hours every day, and the kid wasn't on his level. And but he...
So made the message.
So once the Chassidud said that the reason why B'zalman Meish was like that, it wasn't... He didn't come to Ferach HaKelim. He wasn't stressing on that it should be that the Mekabel should be able to get it. The difference of Meichen and Midas. Okay, anyway, Akoponim. So this is the word over here that the Taka comes, the Nefesh comes into the body, but in order to get there, there's a process. It has to come. It's Tzimtzum. Zeu Gamkin Asibben. This is also the reason we find that the life of the nefesh, it comes different in the different limbs, different part of the body. He lives differently. It's not the same in all parts. There's a diuk over here that says chayis pnimi shel nefesh, because there's also a chayis which is kloli, a chayis kloli, that he's alive and not alive. That's equal in the whole body. But the chayis pnimi, with what he lives, there's a difference. It's not like the life of the nefesh, the way it's in the head, and then there's kameshu b'uva, the way it comes into the body. In quantity, it's a smaller space. The head takes up less of the body, and the body is so much bigger. Still we find that the main faculties, the main strengths of the person is in the head. So we see that the life force, that means the life quality is thinking, understanding, that all is in the head, which is a lot greater than the emotions in the heart and the other parts of the body. And in the foot, which is even bigger than the body, there's very little life. Why is it? The reason for this is because the fact that the nefesh is revealed in the body, the way it reveals itself is it's according to its receiver. More keli means more megushim, more hakshame, less nefesh, less chayis, lesser way of chayis, a minor way, a smaller way of expression of life. Because the life force comes according to the keli. So if it's an edel at a keli, it'll be able to be megal the nefesh in a stronger way. According to the edelkeit of the keli, that's the way the nefesh will be more revealed. The head, which has this fineness to it, it's put together in a fine way. It's more right, more ready for the nefesh to express itself in there. Al-Kain, therefore, therefore the nefesh expresses itself there stronger. All the higher faculties of the nefesh. In the body, it's less than the head. The nefesh holds itself back, it's there in a much smaller way. It's the most thick skin, most thick chemer, most coarse way of existence of gufnius. Therefore the nefesh cannot express itself as much, has to express itself in a much smaller way. So this is when the nefesh comes in the body. So according to the edelkeit of the body, you'll be able to get more of nefesh. And if it's not as edel, fine.